get a beer, but I think the shouting and clapping was a little bit louder, but well done, guys. Super entertaining. I almost peed my pants a few times laughing there. All right, so now we are coming up to our fifth speaker this evening. Depending on what's going on next door, I guess. No, a fan just fell over. Everything's fine. Just a fan. Okay. All right, so welcoming to the stage our fifth speaker, which is Sam, who's going to talk about the illusion of time.
Do you have the time? These are strange times we live in. It's time you got to watch. What is time? Is it universal? Is there a TikTok to be heard throughout the universe? Philosophers were some of the first to bring time into question, like St. Augustine, Aristotle, and Plato, asking, is it infinite or finite? If it did start, then what was before it? And what happens when it ends? Einstein changed how we look at time. Imagine that you are on a plane. A bystander will see you flying through the sky, whereas you will feel that you're sitting still. If you throw something, we could calculate the speed of that object for a bystander by adding the speed of the plane to the speed of the thrown object. So, if you were to shine a torch on the plane, you would assume that we could calculate the speed of light coming from that torch by adding the speed of the plane to the speed of light. But alas, no, the speed of light remains the same for all observers. So, what does this imply? Here we will have a light clock where a beam of light bounces up and down between two mirrors. Imagine that the light clock is on a plane. Again, someone on the ground will see it moving like this, the beam of light, whereas someone on the plane will see it moving up and down like this. It is obvious that the distance that the light has travelled as perceived from the ground is further than the distance it has travelled as perceived from the plane. So, if the speed of light is the same for all observers, then the only conclusion is that the light took longer to travel as perceived from the ground. Moving objects run slower. Time slowed down on the plane. Moving clocks run slower. This is no mistake. This is no mistake. So, next we have satellites have to take this into account. The clocks on satellites run more slowly. No, sorry, the twin paradox. So, if you send one twin off into space on a spaceship that travels at 99.4% the speed of light, and then they tell them to travel for 5 years by their clock, and then they turn around and come back travelling for 5 years by their clock. When they come back, they will have travelled for 10 years by their clock, but on Earth, 29 years would have passed. So the twin on Earth will be 19 years older than their twin now, because time slowed down for that twin. But usually the difference is minuscule, like at the speed that we can really travel on Earth. The satellites now, the clocks on satellites have to be resynced with the clocks on Earth because the time is slowed down on satellites because of the speed they move. Einstein further postulated that space and time are connected in a single continuum. Space-time is like a sheet stretched taut, and the heavy objects will pull this sheet down. This gives us a good picture of time as a nice landscape. Next we move to fiction. Slaughterhouse-Five follows Billy Pilgrim, a World War II veteran who, due to PTSD, has become unstuck from time. He is abducted by aliens and they take him to their planet. They are described as being able to see in 4 dimensions, simultaneously observing all points of time. If you imagine time as a vast landscape with the beginning of the universe at one end and the end of the universe at the other end, then they can look around at the whole whole universe, whereas at the whole landscape, whereas humans have this pipe fixed to their head, and they go on a roller coaster that speeds up, slows down, and moves erratically. This is why we only perceive time moment by moment, and why it can have an elastic feeling to us. Next we have, in the DC universe, Dr. Manhattan went in a machine that discombobulated his DNA, completely destroying him. When he put himself back together, he could see all time as one. Past, present and future for him are all happening now. Next we will move to religion. We have the Holy Father, the Lord God above. In the Bible it says that he existed before time, he created time, and he will exist even when it ends. So we can imagine that these aforementioned fictions give us a good window into this perspective. The Buddha, whilst meditating under the Bodhi tree, is said to have seen all time as one. This is reflected in the quote, "Even your happiness is suffering, because without the illusion of time, that which makes you happy when it comes in your life will make you unhappy when it leaves." The faces at Bayon Temple, they are said to depict different gods depending on the time, but with the Hindu god they depict Brahma. He has one face facing the future, one face facing the past, and two faces looking around at the present. Eckhart Tolle, a modern spiritual teacher, talks about the power of now, the present moment, and he also says that time is an illusion. It is his book in which I read the quote from the Buddha. He talks about the eternal present moment and asks us to be aware of this. So, ancient religion and philosophers alike understood this concept. Now, science supports this concept. So, can we drop the stubborn illusion of past, present and future? Thank you.
The sheer amount of facts that he throws out in his talk is insane, amazing, and my mind is still bent. So, does anybody have any questions about the illusions of time? So, you asked about the slide with the aliens?
Yeah, he said that the feeling of the elasticity of the moment.
The elasticity of the moment. That's a great question. What does that mean?
So time can feel elastic. Have you ever been waiting for something and it feels like so long but only a few minutes pass? Have you ever been on holiday and you look, during the holiday you fit so much in, but then when you look back you're like, whoa, 2 weeks went past, what the hell? Yeah, and we say that time is elastic.
Have you ever talked for 20 seconds per slide? For 20 slides?
Yeah, exactly.
That time goes like that.
All of a sudden, 20 seconds seems like so long.
Time, what do you think of? Do you look at the future forwards, backwards, or nowhere really at all?
I mostly just worry about it in my thoughts, but I'd say that any imagination of the future doesn't exist. It's just your thoughts. There's no, it just doesn't exist. Eddie, yeah, your turn.
Any other questions? Yeah, Beth?
You'd like to drop the illusion or paradox you said, past, present, and future. So what do you want to replace it?
That's a great question. What's the alternative to the future, present, and past that we currently use?
Just to not worry about the future, not to let the past affect you. Also, with what I was saying about the elasticity, to not to take some time, not wish away the time you're waiting for the traffic light to change, but also to be fuck, I'm on holiday, this is great, and not just go through that time and not really experience it.
Talk. I know you can talk a lot more about this. Did you consider ways of accelerating the audience near light speed so that you could actually get more chance to tell them?
Yeah, my spaceship's just outside.
Line hopping.
In what sense? You mean like actually travelling with your physical body into a different place in time, or like in your thoughts?
Yeah, skipping timelines, being two places at once, or having memories of places, or are they really memories, or are they future?
Yeah, I mean, like who knows, like what we know about the nature of the universe is very small, so maybe it could exist. But maybe it is just people having some crazy thoughts, I don't know. So yeah, I haven't thought too much about it.
You didn't have the time.
I didn't have the time yet. Have you got the time?
To continue on from develop the question, I think where Beth was going was the paradox of people traveling back in time and then moving forward. Do you think it's like you can change the future, or you can change the present, or you can change the past?
Okay, so does time travel exist?
And can you change the present? How is your future the time travel paradox?
So I think, sorry, do you want to ask a question?
Can you go back?
So the time travel paradox, if we can go back to the past, if we change things, it's going to be like the butterfly effect and change the future.
So, okay, I wouldn't say that the paradox means you can go back in time, it just means you can like travel fast enough that time runs slower for you. What I'm actually theorising with this is that like a bit like those aliens, humans like are forced to have this way of looking at time, but really all of it is happening now. So maybe through, I don't know what, intention, that kind of thing. Yes, you can alter the past, alter the future, you can heal past traumas, you can be more present and make yourself a better version of yourself for the future.
Ah, good answer. That was good, yeah. All right, amazing job, Sam. You did really well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.